Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes, get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and I got a little bit on the outside done. I went for a walk. I was slightly disappointed because my feet all hurt almost immediately, and I never have problem when I go for my walks. If you said this was a marathon, we're going to cross the country, but you can only walk, that would be a contest. That would be a competition that I would have a very good shot at winning, because I don't feel the effort in just walking. I can go forever if you just let me have a break and something to drink every once in a while. I am happy and I can entertain myself in that, right? Just and that's why I go for walks. That's like my meditation. Lots of people, they like to meditate. For myself, it is in the contemplation that I really have a chance to reflect, and it opens up ideas and understandings and directions, in things that catch my curiosity, things that I want to move and learn a little bit more about or experience a little bit more about. And that's something about myself that I really do appreciate, because I understand that's not something that, highly sensitives, right? Empaths, introverts, codependents, no matter what you want to label it, it isn't a natural trait. But we do have lessons and we do have experiences and we do have gifts. And I utilize every single one of those gifts, even if I acquired those gifts without asking. If I never wanted to have the experiences that those gifts offered, and I had to had those experiences, those gifts are mine. I earned those gifts, and I'm going to call them gifts, even if, lots of us would just trade anything not to have those experiences. Give up all those handy tools that help us maneuver this crazy town life of ours. Not saying it's always crazy town, but we all have those moments. We all have those moments. It's just some of us are graced to get a little bit of a heads up in it, that kind of get a feeling, an understanding, and they're not just pushed about by the waves and the circumstances and the pain and the grief and the frustration of it all. I experienced those emotions. But again, after you put that time in, you put that effort in, you absorb, you become a student, you become a spectator, right? Not necessarily having to have your nose in absolutely every discussion, but in a way you are, because as a spectator and as a student, right? That's all you're doing. You're just paying attention. And that is an amazing way to learn. That's a way to learn that is unique to you, right? That you're finding your own way to absorb things in life. And no matter how you absorb them, the fact that you absorb them, the fact that I absorbed them, uh, yeah, I earned I earned those badges. And like I said, anything I have to do in order to make that movement in my life, I will do that. I was brought up in a adapt and conquer. There was no survival. There was no meal on the table, right? There was possibly no tomorrow, right? And so we adapt, we conquer, we find a way, we never give up, and things always seem to work out. They have to work out, right? They just have to work out. And this is the way that I move in my day to day. But oh my goodness, today just get back to that walk that I went on, right? I really got a understanding of my age a little bit. I kept blaming it on my shoes. But I wore those shoes last summer and I had no problem going for walks and going for long walks too. And today was a long walk, but it was only long because I was slow. I just said, take your time, Cindy, no rush, just go slow, enjoy the view, enjoy the fresh air. And it really wasn't any fresh air today either. And if you don't know, I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And we have got our city entirely surrounded uh, with smoke, with fires going on all over our province. And in fact, our neighboring provinces are too are also struggling with that. But, even sitting here right this moment, I could see the smoke maybe 5 blocks away. It's just the way the light looks when the smoke is right in front of the building. So even at nighttime, it's really recognizable. But I went for a walk today and I went to my sister's for a little bit. She lives like on the 11th floor, and I went out on the balcony and it was just smoke everywhere. It was like the fire was actually in the city. I don't think we're have to worry too much about that, you know, even though I'm wondering if the floodway that surrounds our city to protect us from the flooding would help us out as a fire barrier also. Also, there's not a lot of bush right around the city. For the most part, it is pretty cleared. I don't know how dry the fields are, how fast that would move. I'm not even contemplating in that direction. I haven't given any thought up until this moment, but we are having a hard time of it. The whole world is having a hard time of it. We're all in that same storm, right? But we're just in different boats. And the boat here in Manitoba is the forest fires, right? Whereas in Maui we got eruptions, and in Finland we have landslides, and right, all kinds of natural disasters going on at the same time, right? In that experience. But it's just not the natural disasters, it's the unnatural stuff. It's the stuff we didn't expect that causes us to go into those states where we feel like, right, it just can't get any worse. And that is just not true. It's just the fact that each one of us is this close to it now. In this digital age, it's like living in the action movie, right? It's everything is just not 3D, it's AI, and we get drawn into these crazy experiences. Even for myself, I go on Instagram and I try and go in there. Some of my favorite thought leaders are there, right? Building their brands. And there's, people that I appreciate that I pick up lessons. And if I don't see them during the course of the day, maybe I'm inspired that I need a little bit of Victor Otto or somebody else. And I know I can find their shorts on YouTube Shorts, and I can find it on Instagram if I want to. But I was there today on Instagram, and I'm just looking at the feed, my feed, because for everybody, your feed is going to look different depending on that post that you put your finger on to check out. You can almost guarantee that the next few posts are going to be familiar and on the same topic lines as the one you just let go, right? Because it's that that attention that we give the content that makes it so the content knows what to feed us. And I don't know why it ever thought there was a lesson in it, right? I know why it fed it to me. It's because there was a big lesson in there for me, right? And it is the AI generated art that looks realistic. We're talking about human beings, right? AI generated human beings. Or what about the mix of animals and human beings? I've been seeing those shorts going on, and they're really interesting because you've never seen anything like that. But you've never seen anything like that because, in truth, right, that is somebody's creative mind partnering with AI to create something, again, to grab my attention, right? To what it benefits, I don't know, right? But I did notice that these things are being suggested to me more often, and it means that I've been looking at that content more than I should. And I'm only saying I'm looking at that content more than I should because it doesn't do me any good, right? It's not real. It's right, and you could say lots of things are not real, and that's a truth. But I need something tangible. I need something realistic. I need something that I can relate to that is believable, right? And the absurd is not believable. And I find it uncomfortable that I am drawn to that creativity because it doesn't offer me anything that I would like to be following in my life, if that makes any sense. I want to stay in the real world. Like I said, lots of people say, right? It's just energy. Okay, that's fine. But we're here, and this is an experience that I'm having. And this has been a very, very long experience in my own understanding, right? And there are still decades to go in this experience. But I'm allowing myself to be pulled into it, to be swept up into it because of my understandings and my beliefs that it's going to lead me somewheres. And it doesn't have to be a destination. It just has to be somewheres new, right? Just make another choice, Cindy. Right? Hit that live button, Cindy. But I don't know what the topic is, right? Just trust that it's gonna come to you when you hit that live button, right? Hello, Eugene. Thank you for popping into my live tonight. How's your night going? My night was really good, or my day was really good. I went for a walk today. My feet were just beating. I can feel my heartbeat in my feet. And I knew it was the shoes that I chose. So I've got to try on all my summer shoes and go for a nice long walk and see which ones are going to be my walking shoes, right? And I am really optimistic that I have a good pair of walking shoes and that it is the walking shoes and it's just not me feeling my age, right? What you think about is realized. So I'm not even going to think about that. I'm just going to try on the next good pair of summer shoes, and I'll go for a walk tomorrow and see, right, if it really was I'm pretty confident it was just a pair of shoes that just didn't fit me well, right? Like I said, I love walking. I could just keep walking, walking, walking. Just stop me when it's time for something to eat or it's time to go to bed. And, right, then I could just be right back at it because, well, that walking offers up so much for me. In truth, it's, that opportunity to contemplate, that opportunity to bump into people because sitting here in my chair, I'm not going to bump into anybody. But if I was out on the street or out on the highway, out on the sidewalk, just going for a walk, right? It's those experiences, those conversations, those human souls that come across our path that offer up an opportunity to have an experience. And if we're not out there, right, how's that experience going to find us, right? It is in that movement. And, you know, I am pretty good in that movement. But at the same time, paying attention. I am paying attention. I'm not chewing it on it in any way. I'm not even coming to any conclusions until I've tried every pair of summer shoes that I have. I can't remember what I wore last year. I think my cork sandals, for the most part, from Jerusalem, were the ones that I wore for my long walks for the most part. I used them for a walk a couple of days ago. They weren't so comfortable. And they could just mean new cork soles on them. My feet are the most important aspect of my physicality. In truth, it is my feet because my feet will pick me up and take me places. It'll keep me mobile. It'll give me opportunities to see beautiful landscapes. Give me opportunities to go to. I've just come back. Perfect. I was just about to end my life there. We got some funky weather showing up here in the province, and right, it is the season. So I've just kind of gotten used to the little technicalities. I had a little heart tremor this afternoon. I leaned over my laptop as I was cleaning. I was in cleaning projects today, getting ready for a big yard sale that we're having, me and my sister. And the truck is coming Sunday. So whatever I don't get out of this apartment on Sunday, oh my goodness, is going to stick with me for a while. So we're just going to start. Well, I've already started loading buckets and loading boxes. And right, with me, sometimes you keeps wanting to cut out tonight. Everything seems to be all charged up pretty good. Everything seems connected. But like I said, I left my computer on all night, and I just felt when I leaned over it today, it was all hot, and I had to pull out my fan, my computer fan, turn everything off, and a little hard. So, oh my goodness, did I just burn out my whole computer? Right? It was so hot. So I could understand if I'm having problems with my live tonight, but I'm not going to look too far into it, right? Again, right? Because what you think about is realizing lots of times I create my own little bit of static going on 100%. So you're having a good night tonight, you said, Eugene? That's the one thing about YouTube. Without having that conversation back and forth, it'd be really neat where people could just maybe jump in. Oh, but that wouldn't work either, right? Because there are some people that got millions and millions of followers, and I can imagine if you left the lines, like the sound audio lines open, that it would probably be really quite a racket with everybody talking over everybody else. So that's probably not a good idea. But maybe you could do a ticket kind of idea. right? And when your number shows up, right? Like you're at McDonald's waiting for your order. Oh, good. That's good to hear, Eugene. Like I said, was so busy today. I just kept jumping up, getting right into this project, and I'm so glad that I did because if I had left it for the weekend, I wouldn't have had enough time. I'm going through cupboards and drawers, and I've got bins to go through tomorrow, and everything is going. And I really hope that once everything's gone, I've given a good wash down that I'm able to shuffle the furniture and it's going to look a lot more open and spacious, right? I am eclectic. Naturally, it is my nature. These are my joys, right? Being somebody who spends a lot of time, my environment is important to me, right? And I like my apartment. These are scores that I picked up along the way, all positive, all positive energy, and they make me smile, right? Every time that I turn around or I see in the background of my lives my beautiful right Bierstadt prints behind me, or my forests, or my lighting, and these are things that make me happy. Each one of us have those tastes, right? And I love to experience other people's experiences because then I get to vicariously interact with somebody else's sense of style, somebody else's choices, somebody else's perspective on life, right? And that's pretty amazing. It's a good way to connect if you're not natural in connecting. You know, I work bars and nightclubs, oh, for most part of my working life. And it was a job that I absolutely loved. And I was very, very good at it, only because I was able to interact with my customers, that I was able to build regulars and friendships in within my job so that when I wasn't working, I could spend time with myself or be with people that I wanted to just spend quiet time with or spend time with in adventures and experiences that I had in common with. And I only stalled in that because when I was saying that, what popped into mind was I used to say this all the time at work, because when people go through the records and stuff, and we talk about taste in music, for the most part, for myself, I can jump in a chorus quite often if the top hit or it hit top 40, the song hit top 40, and I heard it lots. Sometimes I could jump in on the chorus part of a song, but for the most part, I was never musically inclined that way. Even when I go on my road trips, I do, most of the time I'm so far out in the wilderness, there is no radio waves. You're not getting the radio, right? I could have CDs, I guess, or CDs, or tape cassettes, depending on what era you're looking at, and I could enjoy the music that way. But still, it wasn't something that I appreciated like most people. And I get it. Like, people love music. Everybody loves a certain genre of music, a certain mood in music. And for my part, right, I like the birds. I like the wind. I like the rustling of the leaves and the grass as I'm walking through. That's my kind of throwing a creek or a river. Right? That's my kind my kind of music. But the only thing I'm saying that because when I was talking there, what popped into my head was, and it was a very ungenuine thing, was that in my young adulthood, I went to a lot of heavy metal concerts, right? I don't know if you would consider them heavy. To me, they were very heavy metal. White Snake, Bon Jovi, Metallica, right? These were really heavy, and I didn't even understand their music, right? You asked me to sing along with these tunes? No. And especially the heavy metal stuff, I probably couldn't even jump in at the chorus. But I went to those concerts. I spent a lot of money on tickets, and I probably spent money on tickets for other people at the same time because all my friends, all they were, most part, they were right. They didn't work for the man. In fact, they probably didn't even work. It was just a good time. But I didn't appreciate the heavy metal music. I appreciated the boys who liked the heavy metal music. And so it wasn't really genuine, right? Because I was only going to those concerts because our guys were going to those concerts, right? And I needed to represent, right? Because those were my those were my guys. If I had it all over to do again, I probably wouldn't have been to any concerts, right? Concerts were never my thing. It was a social event. If my friends were going, I would go just to be social, right? But I remembered that, those guys. Oh, Metallica's coming to town. I'll be, oh, that's so amazing. I can't wait. And I'd be all pumped up and I'd be pumping everybody up and right? Don't even know who Metallica is. Well, I would have known who Metallica was because they were pretty big, right? And of course, you, when I say the guys, like I was in a crew of probably like a crew that hung out every single day in our apartments or somebody's house or at the bar. I would say 15 or 20 of us. At one point, 6 or 7 of us all lived in the same house, and all those 7 had a bunch of friends, and right, it was fun. It really was fun. I didn't always appreciate everybody, but I always got along with everybody, and everybody always got along with me in that. But it was that social, right? It was in that ability to be able to socialize because it's usually not a trait of somebody who's highly sensitive. It was in that adapt and conquer, right? And starting to work in bars and restaurants and clubs. That tip money was my livelihood, and I built that skill. In the beginning, it was a skill that I had to build, but it was a skill that I had never had in my entire life. And once I had it, I earned that badge, you guys. I earned that badge. And I love utilizing and experiencing and adventuring and working with what comes across my path, right? Because I learned to be social and not, and after doing it for so long and putting that roof over my head, it became something that I learned to appreciate. It was something that, in truth, made me come out of my shell, made me appreciate that I had some kind of value to offer. And not only that, to recognize that I wasn't the only, right, highly sensitive. I wasn't the only, well, I didn't know at the time what an empath was, but I did know what a highly sensitive was because, I was told that my whole life. You're just too darn sensitive, right? And so you get to appreciate that time when you don't have to interact with people, right? And it could have been a different story for me. But in my own experiences, in that nurturing and in that repetitiveness of having to put a roof over my head, I learned a skill that turned into being one of the greatest gifts that I could have received, right? Because it's not the norm to be an extrovert when you're an introvert, in all honesty, right? And I am introverted, right? I work in social media. That's not an introverted kind of trait, is it? It'd be much easier for me just to spend my day and be in the lessons and right, but it's just not in the plan for me. It was never in the plan for me. And because I recognize that, I have to do something about it. And for the most part, it's just paddling, right? Because I don't recognize how far behind I am. All the great adventures that I've missed out on. But if I have any say, oh, you guys, let me finish this. If I have any say, it's not even close to being the last of my adventures. Okay, so let's just talk about adventures for a few minutes. Today also, it was a busy day. Today also, I've been working on my September trip. I think I'm only taking 3. I might have to do it in 4 camping spots this year. And I'm pretty excited. I love the planning part of my trip. I'm searching out provincial parks right now that I've never been to before, and or at the very least, different campsites or different parts of the parks. And I am um, planning something that I didn't expect that I was going to have this year, but it looks like there's a good possibility. Well, what you think about, you realize. And yeah, I made that decision, right? The decision was actually made for me because it looks like my sister's going to Disneyland in September. What a coincidence. I usually take my trips in September, right? So that money I was going to give to my car rental, I'll just give it to her and I'll take off with her new car. Yeah, she got a nice VW. I'll take off with her car, but I just don't know if it's going to be 7 days, 10 days, or 14 days. But I should find out this week. And then maybe in the next couple of weeks, maybe we can get dates. And if I can get those dates, then I can book my camping spots, right? Before they disappear. Well, I can still get a good one. Ah, thank you, Eugene. You're a flatterer. But I tell you, I didn't let myself down today, but I certainly paid attention, right? That that energy that I usually have on my walks, energy that I don't even pay attention to. I don't even give any mind to my feet. I don't even give any mind to being tired or hot or exhausted, whatever it is, right? I'm out on my walks and I'm enjoying fresh air and beautiful landscapes and, right, people's gardens and bumping into characters and having little interactions along the way and connecting with Mother Nature, right? And, on the norm, right? It makes me feel good, right? Today I came home and went, oh my goodness, Cindy, was it that 10 pounds you gained in the past 4 months? Or are you truly getting so old that you're not able to get those long distance walks in anymore? I don't believe it's either. I think it's just a matter of just picking the wrong shoes. Give it some thought as to what shoes I was wearing last year, right? If I have to strap some runners on, I'll strap some runners on because my feet are the most important thing, most important aspect of me physically, right? I want to be that 85-year-old on her mountain bike with her basket pedaling away, right? And enjoying life. And if that's what I want, that's what I gotta work towards. Right? So yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to lose that 10 pounds I gained and another 10 pounds just so I have that 10 pounds to work with. Okay, you guys, I'm bagged. I'm going to bed. Eugene, thank you for popping into my live tonight. For those of you who pop in later, put your feet up. I hope you got something out of this. I'll have to come back in. In all honesty, I haven't come into my lives in the past couple of nights, so I don't know what I really have been chattering about. Tomorrow I'll make a concerted effort to do a little bit of backtracking and take in my own lessons for myself. Stay in, considering that, right, today we got a little bit of exercise and, right, we'll get the rest of that packing, getting ready for that big yard sale that we're having this month, right? Cindy needs a new computer. Okay, you guys, have a great